Jumbo, and welcome to another edition of Todd Talk, where we take teaching theory and turn it into teaching practice. In going with our monthly theme of meaningful assessments, today we will be talking about capstones and how you can use capstones to create meaningful assessments for your students. So the first thing we ought to do is define exactly what a capstone is. So here is the dictionary definition of a capstone project. It's a multifaceted assignment that serves as a culminating academic and intellectual experience for students, typically at the end of an academic program. So in more plain English, what a capstone is after the learning has been done, this is a reflection on that learning. So what did you truly learn from all of the learning you did in a course, in a subject area, in a year, and whatever. But how can you show what it is that you have learned in a culminating experience? So that's basically what a capstone is. To further define it, it uses a lot of critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, and other skills that are developed through the hands-on nature of a capstone project, because a capstone project is more involved than maybe your typical type of assignment. Some examples of these would be internships. If a student is, interning with like a veterinarian and learning everything about that, that might be a culminating experience because they've been learning about that the whole time. Competing scientific study, so actually being involved in an authentic scientific study where the results of that are going to be either published or shared or used to further research. Could be creating a business plan, where if you're in economics class and you actually create a business plan for opening up a business using the skills that you have learned in that class. Writing a final report, kind of like a dissertation, so to speak. But that one's not as exciting as maybe like having an oral presentation where you are either telling people, you're presenting to people, you're showing people what it is that you learned through what it is, the course that you were taking. So benefits of doing a capstone. First off, using a capstone allows students to really see what they learned. And that's really important. Because there's what we want students to learn is what they actually learn. And so for them to be able to do a capstone and reflect upon what they learned is going to be very meaningful for them. And then they're going to find out what was useful for what they learned and how to use that in the future. It also gives them an additional opportunity to show how in depth they understand what it is that they learned. And so basically they're having to put into practice what it is that they learned. So they have to truly understand that in order to put that into practice. So that's another thing a capstone does. It can be used in extension assignments, so to challenge students who are able to take a little bit further or go a little bit deeper. So capstones are good ideas for kids who maybe get the basics of something but are prepared to go on to something more in depth. And then lastly, capstones typically have a performance aspect to it, and performance tasks give them opportunities to take part in real world scenarios or authentic scenario assessments and things of that nature. So the goals of a capstone, so why do a capstone in the first place? The goal, one, should be to increase the academic rigor. And keep in mind, rigor does not mean the difficulty. Rigor means what type of thinking are you asking students to do? And so by increasing the academic rigor, students are having to not only understand and apply what it is that they learned, they're having to analyze it and create new things with that and to evaluate what they learned. So they're going into those higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy, and so the rigor is part of it. They can be very motivating. And so if you're working with seniors, and senioritis is a real thing, and they're kind of shut down because they've already gotten to their schools, and doing a capstone with them can really get them motivated, and because it's an engaging project, so it gets students, reflecting upon what they did. It also can increase their aspirations for career. So in other words, if they are doing an internship with an engineer and they find out that that's something they're really interested in, then they can pursue that further. So it can be used as a stepping stone to further aspirations. It improves the self-confidence of students because it's very student-led. And so students are in charge of their learning. And so it's basically the Confucian saying of, we're no longer giving kids fish, we're teaching them how to fish, and then we're letting them fish now that they've been taught to fish, we're letting them do that fishing. And so they are going to be able to learn whatever it is that they want and reflect as learners and take that into whatever it is that they do. And then lastly, it demonstrates learning and proficiency. So it basically gives you, validation that students learn what it is you hoped that they learned. But I think that, again, the most important is the learning that they do and the reflecting that they do. It teaches 21st century skills, and here are some of them here, and I'm not going to go over all of them, but basically, if you do a capstone, you are probably going to have to use some research skills of some sort. You're probably going to have to learn how to set goals and manage your time. Hopefully, it's set up to where students are going to be thinking critically and problem solving. Hopefully, there's a public speaking aspect to it. Public speaking is a really valuable 21st century skill that students can learn. So capstones lend themselves to the teaching these 21st century skills. So even though students may be going over stuff they've already learned and reflecting upon that, but are taking it further, they're still going to be learning a skill as they're doing this. So there is additional learning that is taking place as a result. So it's also real world learning. So capstones usually encourage students to connect whatever it is they're working on to the community. Or to something authentic. So the example of the scientific research. So working with a real scientist and trying to help them in their research or something of that nature. But conducting interviews, the internships I mentioned before, these are all real world authentic tasks that students can do. Ideally, you have them working with a mentor or learning directly from the person that is able to show them what it is that they're doing. And so this allows them to understand what it is that they're going to be doing if they pursue this career in the future. So if a student really is interested in being a veterinarian and they intern with a vet, they're going to have a clear picture of is this something for them before they go into college and start doing, down that path and figure out it's not something that they want to do. A real nice thing is you could have a symposium at the end for several students. So if there are multiple students working on capstones, you can have a community event where you invite teachers, parents, you invite community members, politicians, business leaders to come and see what these students have learned. So it's kind of like a TED Talk almost, where students are giving an overview of what it is they learned from their capstone. So this is what a capstone actually looks like.
During their high school registration, Chanhassen and Chaska High School students choose electives from 4 areas of interest. These include arts and communication, global studies, health and social sciences, and STEM. After students complete introductory and intermediate courses within this area of interest, they choose a 3rd and final capstone course. Capstones are opportunities for students to own their own learning. Capstones are self-driven, project-based courses in which a student would identify something that they want to really go into depth on and to learn about, to study. And there are different options for students to do this kind of work, but basically it is self-driven. Self-driven, project-based learning requires what we call 21st century skills and probably 21st century and beyond type skills. Those kinds of skills are critical thinking, problem solving, how do I communicate appropriately in the community and between the people that I'm working with, networking skills, time management, being able to develop an action plan and follow through on that, goal setting. Those are all really important self-learning, self-driven skills that we want the kids to experience in a capstone course. Capstones are really a unique experience for kids.
Right now we're doing marketing practicum where we're implementing these skills, and you continuously learn just through experience. All the things we do, we encounter so many obstacles that we have to learn how to get around. And problem solving is an endless skill that you just get better at. It's not something you actually learn, and that really helps. It's all about real life and getting out there.
During my capstone coursework, I learned a lot about time management, and it's really an independent study. So you learn a lot about yourself and how you work with time and with different fields. It also teaches you a lot. You go more in depth about the different fields that you're studying, and it's really real life application to what's happening in your community.
The community is a critical partner because what the community can offer students is that authentic learning experience. Schools provide a great educational opportunity for kids, but they don't always provide the authentic experience. And students just so much benefit when they see the application of their learning in an authentic situation. And so I think that there are lots of opportunities for students to apply what they know out there in the community and in a real, authentic, real-world situation. The teacher serves as both a teacher and coach, helping students to develop goals, to identify possible projects, and to understand what a successful project should look like. Students have full responsibility for their projects, but they are supported by teachers, the Career Resource Center, counselors, and others.
In my classes, students have outside business mentors that they are able to contact, get help from, ideas and advice. The value for students is they're able to take what they've learned in their prior classes. For example, in marketing practicum, they're able to take the information they learned in marketing 1 and marketing research and apply that to a real world situation.
So far you've seen examples of capstones in high school, because ideally that's a great place to do it, because this is the culminating experience of their educational career. But it can be done in junior high as well. So our junior high does a gifted challenge project called the GCP. And in it, it breaks down into 5 parts. The kids are doing research. They're having an internship or mentor. They're creating some tangible product that reflects what it is, their community involvement. There is a showcase that they have to present at that shows what it is that they learn. And then they give a presentation to a group of students and teachers that kind of gives an overview of it. So you can see all the elements of the capstone within this project itself. And kids work on this over the course of the entire year. So it's not like they do this at the very end. It's introduced to them very early in the year, and then they're developing their capstone project as it goes along. And the capstone project may not have anything to do with what it is they're learning in class, actually. It just may be something that they've really always wanted to learn about, or something they've wanted to explore using these 21st century skills that you see here. So, and this is the way the timeline works. Like I said, they introduce it in November, and it goes all the way till May. And so kids are getting checklists or checkpoints all throughout to make sure that they're where they need to be. AP has a capstone where what they do is after taking the 10th and 11th grade seminar, they take AP research and so on and so forth. It looks like this, basically. So they spend the first year in the seminar, the second year doing their research, and then if they complete this in addition to 4 AP courses and exams, they can apply for an AP capstone diploma. So that is a more formal capstone. The keys to a really successful capstone is how do you evaluate, how do you measure its success? Well, it has to be a well-written rubric. And this has to be able to measure the growth of students through objective, measurement. It can't be too complex because students need to be able to read it. You need to be able to read it as you're using it, and so on and so forth. And it needs to provide clear descriptors so students can see what it looks like, because this is the blueprint of what they're going to be doing. So for example, here's an example of a capstone Earth's Future project that science teachers at the junior high developed, where they are going to be doing these projects, and they're going to select possible locations and then possible projects. There's lots of student choice in this. And then students will receive at the very beginning, they'll receive this rubric, which kind of evaluates the content aspect of it. And then they have this one where it's evaluating the presentation and visuals and professionalism of their project. And you can see that these are all very clearly laid out. So the ways you can set it up in your class is you can choose a long-term project that you're already working on, and just the capstone is the culminating product of that long-term project. It could be that you set it up that you find a topic that's really important in your subject area and allow students to create a capstone around this. So if you're teaching science and you pick, the community, the pollution of the local river, then that might be something that's a project that students are going to be working on. You can have them collect work over the course of a year. It's like a portfolio. But the capstone comes in the reflection of this portfolio. And then lastly, you can work with another teacher. And so when I taught middle school, we had a capstone that went through math, social studies, science, and language arts. So it was a culmination of the entire year for students. Then students presented their funerary project where they had to incorporate all of the skills they learned from all of the subject areas in this particular capstone.